Welcome, Snake Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Skid Row, this new album, The Guns All Here, and more things related to the rock scene. First of all, how have you been during these crazy times? We started a pandemic 2 years ago, a war in Europe. Who knows what happened next couple of years? There is alien invasion, zombie apocalypse.
I'm doing really well. All things considered, I'm very, very lucky. I feel very fortunate to have gotten through, what I believe is the worst part of the pandemic, and my family is healthy, my band members are healthy, my friends are healthy, and I'm able to go out and play music again and create music. So I've got a lot to be thankful for.
Okay, after these 6 years and a pandemic, we can finally have a new Skid Row album. So why did it take it so long to have these new songs? When did you begin to work in this process of composition, record for this new album?
Oh my gosh. Before the pandemic. But we started writing and compiling songs, but we also were touring pretty consistently as well. So we had to kind of do recording in like sort of sporadic time frames. And the more that we wrote, the more we were liking what we were writing, but we weren't quite where we wanted to be. And then the pandemic hit, and that put the brakes on everything. Personally, I wasn't very creative during the pandemic. And that sucked. That was very frustrating. And then, once everything started to lift and we were able to get back into an environment that was conducive to being creative, things really started coming together. When Nick Raskulinecz came on board to produce the record, that's when things really started to take shape. He had a really clear vision of what he saw as a Skid Row album. And what that really entailed, oddly enough, from his standpoint, was kind of reintroducing us to ourselves, to the people that started Skid Row to begin with, and the reasons why we did that. What drove us to start a band with each other and to create music with one another and to perform with one another and to live a life with one another. And he wanted to get to that fire that burns deep within you of what propelled all those things in the first place. And so my reference point was and is like that 16-year-old kid who's got a flying V over his shoulder in front of a mirror, pretending to be Ace Frehley or Michael Schenker or Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van Halen. And the idea of just wanting to be everything's music. You just want to play music. You want to create music. You want to listen to music. You just live. Your embodiment is music. And now a lot of life has occurred over the course of, from that time to now. But that essence of who you are still is there. Mm-hmm. So it was his vision to help us get reacquainted with that. And once he had a very clear idea of how to do that as well. And so once we got in the process of what he was looking at, the first thing that we did, that we had to do, was leave our egos in the parking lot. Like, there's no ego, man. And we have all these songs and ideas. And we go in a studio, and he wants to basically deconstruct and rebuild everything from the perspective of those guys that started Skid Row and created, this music along the way. Let's tap into that. And so we would sit there and we set up the amps in the live room and the drums, and we're just jamming and playing these songs. And he's in there as well. And he's like, okay, stop. I love that. I love that B verse. Going into that chorus right there, instead of doing what you did, why don't you do something like you did in the second B verse of Monkey Business? And all of a sudden it's like, boom, light bulb goes off. And you're like, okay. And you start tapping into this well of creativity that you have inside of you that just is looking for an avenue to get out. And he's opening up that window. And it was a challenge because he's putting something forth towards you, like saying, I know you did it once. Can you do it again? Can you do better? And like I said, a lot of life has occurred between, the creating the first record and putting the band together to now, some 36 years, 37 years from when we started the band. But the wonderful thing about that is that that fire still burns inside of you, and what is the bare essence of that. And so that kind of guides you along the way. He's like captaining the ship. And so what that does is it gets everybody's creative juices flowing. And so when he says, yeah, we need something here that's better than what you're doing, and think about it in this way, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 everybody's flying with ideas, and you're creating in the moment. And it was really something special because we never really did anything, excuse me, like that before. So that was really special. And it was such a great, gratifying experience, because you're being challenged at all the times, but in such a way that you want to accomplish it because you want to make him happy as a producer. And he does it in such a way that he makes you want to do it. Because he's part of the team, he's like directing it around, and he knows what we're capable of. And he pushed us to our limits in order to show that, to have that revealed.
Okay, interesting to see. A lot of things happen to record this new album. It's amazing that. So
yeah.
Into this aspect, so lineup changes are difficult when you are when you just especially for the vocalist. So how has been your fans' response until now with Eric's vocals?
Wait, I say that last thing again. I'm sorry.
So how has been your fans' response until now with Eric's vocals?
Well, I think at the very beginning, people were either curious or were like, oh no, not again. But I think after hearing him sing our songs and seeing him perform with us, there's been a lot of people that have been converted. I mean, there's no denying how great of a singer he is. Like, no one could sit there and go, oh, he's not very good, because that's just a lie. He's excellent. He's an excellent singer. He's a machine. He could do anything. He can sing anything. And so no one could sit there and say otherwise. And he sings these songs great. There's going to be people that are always going to hold on to the past and the past alone. I understand that. But I'm also aware that as a musician and a creative person in the midst of other creative people, we need to create. And we hopefully do the best that we possibly can at that particular moment in our careers. That being said, I think that when Eric came in, it was like it fit, and it fits like a glove. It was seamless. It was easy. Like, he recorded 8 of the 10 songs for the record while he was still in Sweden, before we had ever even met him or gotten a room with him to play. He joined the band having not played with us. Like, that's insane. And the first time that he played with us was in Las Vegas 3 days before we played our first show with the Scorpions. So that's just, it's unheard of. Like, life doesn't happen like that. but I'm grateful that it did.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the album was already done when Eric joined the band early this year. So how was the process of recording his vocals? Did Eric change something from the original compositions that were done for the album?
We gave him like a blueprint,
Okay.
like the melodies and the lyrics and stuff like that. And we said, there's certain things that we want to stay, spot on about, but we also want you to inject your personality into this. We want you to own these songs. And it's not dissimilar from the first record that we ever did as Skid Row, which the whole thing was written before Sebastian joined the band. And so it's not dissimilar from that. So we kind of took the approach of, here you go, here's the melodies, here's the phrasing, and have at it. And he would play with it, and we'd go, that's great. That's great. It wasn't written in stone. So we gave him the leeway to own the songs and make them his own.
Okay. Okay. We had a chance to listen the new album, and all I can say is that it sounds strong, heavy, and catchy. So, but we like to know, how would you describe your sound in this record? You said that is some relativities with the first album, this kind of stuff, but some perhaps more than that. So where do you find the inspirations for the new songs?
Well, the universe has been through an awful lot in the last 4 years. There's been so much isolation, divisiveness, disease, and to come out of it, we all are incredibly thankful that we're healthy, that our families are healthy, and that we're able to continue to make music for a living. And that in and of itself is inspiring. To be fortunate enough to have music be your livelihood, and to be able to have the freedom to create and release new music, as well as to go out and perform that with the history that we've been able to create. So it's really humbling. And I think we went into making this record humbled, grateful, and really, really thankful for the opportunities that we've always had and that we continue to have.
Okay. So
and this is a celebration.
Okay.
It's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of friendship. It's a celebration of new blood. So it's all things positive.
Okay. So can we say that this album bring us your best younger guitarist from the first days in the band?
I'll leave that up to everybody else to decide. I'm very proud of what Scotty and I have played on this record. It's the first record that we've done where there's nearly every song we have dueling solos, which is a lot of fun. He's such a great guitar player and such a great musician. And this is the first time that we actually recorded all the rhythm tracks in the same room facing each other. And that created a lot of great energy between us. And I think that Nick was able to capture that in the tracks. It was really great to be able to play off of each other and to be spontaneous and be very much in the moment.
Okay. I know that the musicians experience music is a different way that fans do. So I mean, when you play guitar, it feels different compared to what we as a fan feels when they listen to the song. So how do you make sure that you are creating their good riff, the exact riff, the good solos, the vocals are melodic, the good vocal parts. So this kind of stuff, etc. for the album.
I would say I judge it by how it makes me feel inside, number one, and how it makes the rest of the guys feel when they hear it. So I very much value the response and the reaction of the band and Nick, our producer, very much. And if I'm not feeling great about something, but everybody else is going, that's awesome, I'll give it one or two more takes to see if I can outdo it. But if I can't, I will trust their judgment for sure.
Okay. Sorry. What are your future plans after releasing the album? How is and now relating to this, how is the music industry in your country compared to the, well, from the 80s to now? It's very different, very different.
Very different. But you know what? We've been touring consistently for the last 22 years. We do over 100 shows a year, regardless. And we've gotten to go to places that I never even heard of, and perform in Southeast Asia and in areas of the Eastern Bloc, and so a lot of places that we've never been. We've stayed really, really busy, and it's more of the same. We took August off. We start up again September 9th, and we go straight through to the end of the year. We'll take off for the Christmas and New Year's. January and February, we're taking a bit of a hiatus, and we start up again in March, and we'll tour for the rest of the year.
Okay. So are there chances to see you touring across Latin America or here in Latin America?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Where are you based out of?
Where we are based in Peru and Mexico.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean, we've been in Mexico numerous times, so absolutely.
Okay, and what about the next select in Latin America? Peru, Chile, Brazil, Colombia. Do you receive some offers to play here in Latin America?
You know what? I tell you what, I have great memories of playing in Colombia, in Medellin. The best fried chicken I've ever had was in Medellin at Checkers.
Oh, okay, nice to hear that. So, well, change of the subject. So, do you still have time to listen to the rock or metal bands? How do you see now the scenes nowadays? Because now it's too saturated compared to the 80s or 90s. And what do you think about these revival movements? I mean, there are many young bands recreated the sound with your influence, buying vinyls from the 70s, 80s, or doing a lot of things from the old school.
Right. I love the new Exodus record. I love the New Testament record. I think there's a bunch of stuff that I'm turned on to when I just have like I'm listening to Spotify and I have like New Music Friday or something like that. And there's a lot of stuff that I hear that I really do like. And I think that hard rock and heavy metal is in really good hands with what is the younger bands that are coming up. All this stuff about rock is dead, I find to be ludicrous. I don't believe that. I mean, I see I live out on Long Island in New York, and there's a lot of younger musicians playing and starting bands, and playing in even virtually online, but remotely, if you will, and then kids in garages in their parents' basements. It still exists. I think the death knell for hard rock and heavy metal is premature.
Yeah, you said something about the Spotify Friday new discovered bands. So with this, the life now is faster, and people see where and listen music from their smartphones, PCs, and other things. So what is your opinion about the digital platform? How has you been your experience with this? Because it is causing people to focus more on singles than completely albums. We are in a cyclic time. We are returning to the 40s and 50s where the people just listen singles and no whole albums.
Um, I understand it, and you know what, the streaming services came about. I mean, Napster came about because a lot of college kids just didn't have any choice. They couldn't afford to pay for a CD, especially if they only liked one song on a CD. And the record labels should have understood this, but they were so damn greedy that they didn't want to adapt to the needs of a kid, a 17, 18-year-old kid in college who's got no money. He's barely got enough money for a Happy Meal at McDonald's. He doesn't have 17, 18 bucks to pay for a CD.
Yeah.
And so Napster came along because it gave people the option to listen to music. I mean, it was for free, which I didn't agree with as well, but I absolutely understood the premise behind it. So I'm all about music being available to everybody at a very fair and reasonable price. And I also believe wholeheartedly that the artists should be compensated fairly. It works both ways. I mean, I'm a fan of the streaming services because of the access, the immediate access that people can have to your music. I think it's very crowded. More crowded. Music business is more crowded than it's ever been. But at the end of the day, the great stuff always seems to be discovered and rise to the top.
Okay, okay.
If someone likes your music enough, they'll sit there and they'll tell
Yeah.
somebody, I love it, you got to check it out. I love it, you got to check it out. Just like in the old days with tape trading.
Yeah.
It's same type of thing, but it's just on a grander scale. So I understand the idea of quote unquote singles being released, but I still look at things as from an album standpoint, and the way we create the sequence of a record and everything like that. All that stuff is still important to me. It's probably not as important to the consumer as it used to be, because we used to, when we got a new record or a new CD, it was a ritual, man. Like, you would get it and you would get home as quick as you could, or get in your car and unbox it, or pull the wrapper off and get out the liner notes and look at the lyrics and all the credits and all the thank yous and everything like that, and see if you recognize anybody on there. And it was a ritual, and nothing else mattered for that hour that you listened to that CD or that album. That was it. And it's not like that anymore for most music consumers. I'm not saying all, because I still, I love getting vinyl and putting it on and listening to it and sinking into it. But I'm thankful that we do have avenues out there for people to consume music still. It looked a bit shaky there for a bit, but it's starting to work its way out. Just like when CDs came in to take the place of albums, streaming came in to take the place of physical product. There'll always be physical product. People will always want to have ownership of that. But the way we consume music is just different, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, okay. So we are very close to this interview. If you will have a time machine and you have the opportunity to travel to the past, what is the biggest advice that you can give to you? Is there anything would change for the first time that play much better for the future? So no, who knows?
Do this because you love it. Don't do it because you think it's a quick way to, or it's a means to make money or anything like that. That's a part of it, but you have to start with loving it and having it be the most important thing in your life. when we started Skid Row, and even before that, when I first picked up the guitar, and I could probably say this for everybody in the band, when we first picked up to our instruments, nothing came even close. It was the most important thing in our world. When we were forming the band, we wanted to be with other people who had shared the same vision. It's the most important thing in the world. And really the goal was to be able to sell enough records or CDs or music in general in order to be able to go and make another record. The idea was we wanted to make a living playing music, and we would do anything we could to do it as long as it was pure and it was truthful. People could pick up bullshit, man. People are, they got good bullshit detectors. You're not going to get one over on a whole hell of a lot of people. So you really do have to love it, and you have to mean it. And and you really have to study it. Like, you've got to put in the time.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't pick up something and think that you're gonna, create the next great song a month after you pick up your guitar. It just doesn't happen like that. Learn your instrument, learn about songwriting, figure out other people's songs, learn how to play those songs that appeal to you so you can understand the chord changes and how the melodies work with those chord changes and the flow and the arrangements of stuff. I mean, you don't learn that in 25 minutes. I mean, that's something you got to dedicate yourself to it.
Okay. Sorry. And relating to this, if we are living in a time when people are writing books about the old bands or doing films about the old bands or history. So into these aspects, which are the probably title if someone doing your history, the title of the film, the title of the video, or the title of the book that explain all career from Skid Row, one. And the second one, how do you like to describe the Snake in this book? A charming person, a welcome very person, who knows?
I would the title would be Not Dead Yet. And I think man, just people will go, man, he's a good, funny guy. Just a good guy. Just all around, just a good guy.
Okay, okay.
And funny. I want to make sure that people enjoy my comedy.
Okay, okay. Well, Snake, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did.
Always,
Really,
thank you, Avi. I appreciate it, man.
no, I really appreciate for your time, and you find us amazing. I listened from the first time, with as you said, with the classic, with the first album I got in CD, so it's a great album until now. So
Thank
perhaps
you.
you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallic followers.
Well, the thing is that because of the fans, we get to play music for a living, and that's the greatest gift in the world to us. And we are continually humbled and grateful for the support that we get from the audience and the respect, and we respect our audience infinitely. And so I hope that we'll be able to see a lot of the Skid Row faithful in Latin America sometime soon.